You are listening to the Booktrospective Podcast, a podcast for all types of books. And even though we read all types of books across all different types of genres, we want to give a disclaimer. Many of our books and a lot of our content sometimes is intended for mature audiences. And we don't believe in censorship, but we do want our listeners to have the opportunity to decide if our episode or podcast is good for them. So with that, let's get into the episode. Hey, it's Dominique.
And Keely.
And you are listening to Booktrospective. And this week we are covering Vera Wong's Unsolicited Advice for Murderers by Jessie Q.
Sutanto, I believe.
Okay. But first, Keely, how was your week?
My week has been...
What's today?
Tuesday.
Oh my god, I don't even know what day of the week it is.
My week has been okay so far. I don't even remember the last time we recorded, so I can't even...
We recorded last week, but it was on...
I don't even know what I did, yesterday, so I don't... It's been alright. Nothing obviously noteworthy. What about you?
Okay, so it's Tuesday. Yesterday, I started another new job, counting down to whenever I can quit my other job. I don't know. Lots of school stuff. I don't know. I don't really know I'm just living. I'm sliving. Isn't that what's his name? Matthew McConaughey said. Oscars. Disappointing. Watch the Oscars. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Not much is going on. So I will talk about this, but as you guys know, I'm also behind on doing stuff. So we made a Patreon a long time ago. It's just never been launched, and that's my fault. And we'll get to that. But I did make a book club for us on Storygraph. Did I add you to it? Did I send it to you?
I think so.
If I didn't, it's okay. I haven't done anything with it. I'm trying to decide, it's not my decision. We have to decide, if that'll go behind the Patreon or not. So there's that, because I want to get that going, at some point. So that's in the works. What else? I think that's really it for right now. I don't think anything's coming up. Is there anything coming up?
Not that I can think of.
I can't think of anything special, so whatever. But yeah, so we're recording back to back today, so we're gonna just move along to our books. So we'll do the blurb, and then we'll talk about the author and all that stuff, and then fly by the seat of our pants per usual and talk about the book. So Keely, do you have the blurb?
I do have.
She can't see. She's rubbing her eyes.
Yeah, and my eyeball was making a weird noise.
Oh.
I was like, that is weird. It sounded like SpongeBob's rubber boots.
Oh my gosh.
All right. A lonely shopkeeper takes it upon herself to solve a murder in the most peculiar way in this captivating mystery by Jessie Q. Sutanto, best-selling author of Dial A for Aunties. Vera Wong is a lonely little old lady, a lady of a certain age who lives above her forgotten tea shop in the middle of San Francisco's Chinatown. Despite living alone, Vera is not needy. Oh no, she likes nothing more than sipping on a good cup of Wulong and doing some healthy detective work on the internet about what her Gen Z son is up to. Then, one morning, Vera trudges downstairs to find a curious thing, a dead man in the middle of her tea shop, in his outstretched hand, a flash drive. Vera doesn't know what comes over her, but after calling the cops like any good citizen would, she sort of swipes the flash drive from the body and tucks it safely into the pocket of her apron. Why? Because Vera is sure she would do a better job than the police possibly could. Because nobody sniffs out a wrongdoing quite like a suspicious Chinese mother with time on her hands. Vera knows the killer will be back for the flash drive. All she has to do is watch the increasing number of customers at her shop and figure out which one among them is the killer. What Vera does not expect is to form friendships with her customers and start to care for each and every one of them. As a protective mother hen, will she end up having to give one of her newfound chicks up to the police?
Okay. So, if you could describe this book in one word, what would you say?
Meddling.
Yeah, she's definitely trying to think, like, what's another, like, good way? I don't know. I don't want to say family, but that really is, like, what it is, because it's, like, a found family thing. So, I'm going to go with family, for that, which I don't really want to do that, but I'll go with that for now. So, all right. So, this book, let me pull up my stuff here. I have these songs stuck in my head. Okay. Okay, so I'll talk about the author first. So Jessie Q Sutanto, I think that's how you say it, is a Chinese Indonesian author. I go straight off the Wikipedia here. She's published 9 novels for adults, young adult, and middle grade. There's not a lot on the Wikipedia, actually. I don't know, like, maybe in her bio or what's on her page. Her first book was Dial A for Aunties, which was just in 2021. So she's written 9 books since 2021. Dang. Okay. And so Vera Wong, this book actually has a sequel to come out next year. This year. It's 2025.
Yep.
I don't see what I'm saying. I don't even know what the day is. But yeah, there's not actually a lot about her on here. So she went to the University of Oxford. I believe she lives in the UK. At least it seems like it. Or I don't know if she still does. But yeah, so that is that. This book in particular was released or published in 2023. It's like 339 pages, so it's a nice size. What would you classify this as? It says contemporary.
Cozy mystery.
Yeah, so there's that. So, general summary. Vera is a, like, older Chinese woman. She's very traditional. She opened a tea shop, and, like, her son is an adult, but he has nothing to do with her. I mean, he has something to do with her, but, like, very, very long handle between them because she's, like, just overbearing. Like, she's all about, like, getting up very early in the morning, going to bed on time, like, routine, tradition. And she finds a dead body in her tea shop, and she's so excited because she can live out her dreams of being Sherlock Holmes. So she's like, puts out an ad, basically like an obituary, which was essentially an ad to see like who shows up here. And there's 4 people who end up like turning up. The wife of the person who dies, 2 other people who are like affiliated with him, which we don't learn all that till later on in the book. And then the guy actually has a twin brother because she's like, oh my gosh, like, is he back from the dead? Like, what's going on? She even like, she hates the police. Like, she's like, they're not doing their job. She outlines the body. Like, she's insane. And so like through this, like, she, while is very overbearing, like plays a very pivotal role in like each person's lives. But the truth of the matter is too, like, she's also just like a very lonely woman. Like she does everything really out of like love, like nothing's out of malice, but it is overbearing, and she's not learned that. And so like she pushed her son away. And so, you know, she does mess up and make like a bad decision. And it causes her to lose her newfound family in this book too. And causes her like to finally recognize like maybe she is the problem. And so we do have a lot of found family in this book. And then we also, like, I was surprised to learn who the killer was. It's kind of a sad reason. Like, it is like just like the good thing is, like, I don't dislike any of the alive characters. So that is good. But it's definitely just like a cozy mystery. We read it for book club. Some people did not like Vera's character. I did not mind her at all. I thought she was funny. I laughed a lot at like the silly stuff she does because she's not my mom. So like she would irritate me to death. Like back up. But like to read about it, like it's cool. So I'm like, that's fine. I guess like there's probably not a bunch of triggers for this. Obviously there's a murder. Well, I don't know. There's a murder. There's like scamming. Like I guess, like just being scammed.
Emotional abuse.
Yeah, domestic abuse, like not physical. Yeah, child neglect, kind of. Really,
death of a parent. I mean, other than that, there's not
death of a spouse.
A ton.
Yeah, it's not. It's very like light. I mean, those topics are in there, but it's very light. So. Yeah, so if you have not read this book and you don't wish to be spoiled, I'm going to go ahead and get started. So we'll talk about it lightly, and then we'll kind of discuss it at the end too. So, like our thoughts and kind of go through like our general questions that we have. So, this is in multi-POV. So we start out with Vera. Vera is, again, she's the elderly lady. She is... talks a lot about Chinese zodiac, so she's a pig, but she's like, I should have been a rooster because like I'm very like I get up in the morning, I get things done. Like she's very, I don't know, to me a rooster is like a Capricorn. Like that's what I equated that to. But she's a very just overbearing mom. She has a son named Tilbert. She calls him Tilly. He hates it. And she
I would too.
Yeah, she literally, like, first of all, you keep calling me this nickname that I hate. She texts him at 4:30 in the morning when she gets up, like, you need to be up, drink your water, find a woman, like, and then like she goes to bed, like, texting him, like, Mom, please give me a break. So she has a tea house. This is in San Francisco, in Chinatown. And so she opens a tea shop and calls it Vera Wang. It's because obviously Vera Wang is famous. So she does it to like have that name recognition, but no one comes to this tea shop. Like it is like not like decrepit, but like it's not in the best state. Yeah. She literally just has one customer. His name is Alex. He's like an older gentleman to kind of around her age. And he basically only comes in to like get tea because he's at home caring for his wife. And so essentially she's just very lonely, and that like we get like her first day, and literally that night like she dreams about death, which is how you know like Vera really like at the root of all of it, she puts on all this face, but she is lonely and she's afraid of being alone, dying alone, all those things. And she had a husband, but he passed away. And so the next morning she gets up, does a routine, and there's a dead man in the tea house. So we switch to Julia, and Julia is married to Marshall, who walked out on her and their 2-year-old daughter. And she doesn't know like what to do because she's essentially been one of those moms and wives that like everything is tied to her husband. She has nothing of her own, no money, no purpose. She's like, I literally don't know what to cook for lunch because I cooked everything based off what Marshall wanted. Hear me and hear me now. If that is you, this is your moment to recognize it and correct course of action. Not telling you to leave that man, but if you have to, hey, I don't know. Don't do that. Don't lose yourself, please. So she's like sitting there and she just feels worthless, and the police come and they're like, hey, he's dead. Also their daughter, I wonder if she's autistic, but I also just wonder if they just had a really weird relationship. Like I just like, because I like know people like this who have very codependent relationships with when they have a kid and they're like a stay-at-home mom or whatever the case is, and they just don't ever go outside and like touch grass, and so they get weird and their kid gets weird. Take that lightly. I know weird's like a word that is offensive. Don't take that offensively, but like things that we might consider to be like a disorder when it might really not be. But like from what we get from Julia is like Marshall thinks his kid is weird. He like doesn't have anything to do with her. He doesn't like, or he didn't when he was alive, did not like play with her, touch her. She does, like she's 2 and she does still breastfeed. And like not only does she breastfeed, like she really wants to do it when people are around. And she also like talks perfectly normal, but then when people are around, she talks like a baby. And like she has tantrums, and Julia just like, she don't know what to do. She is lost. She's like, I don't know what to do. But she doesn't talk to strangers, but the daughter's name is Emma. And I was like, good. That is the one good trait. Don't talk to those strangers.
Right.
And so like they're telling Julia like, hey, like he was dead, yada, yada, yada. And she's like, why would a designer like own a tea house? Because she's like, they're like, it's Vera Wang's, and she's like, what? Like that's the only part that she caught. Also his stuff is like packed in bags, so she's like, this looks terrible. Like he's like, his stuff is in bags. And like they're like, no, it's not Vera Wang, it's owned by Vera Wong. And she just like laughs because like, you know, shock. And they tell her he also popped a Molly. I'm sweating. Ooh, like though he like had ecstasy on him when he died. And she's like, who is this man? Like I don't know a man that would break into a tea house and die and have ecstasy on him. And so we go back to Vera. She cannot sleep because it's weird, because she's like, it's all about discipline. If I want to go to bed, I will go to bed. Like, she's very very disciplined. So she's like basically, when they came to do like the crime scene stuff, she's like preparing everything, and they're like, lady, get out of the way. She literally took a Sharpie, because she didn't have chalk, and drew a line around the body. You drew a Sharpie line in your store around a body? That's okay. And they're like, please leave. And then she's like basically like questioning them. She's like, I don't think they're doing a good job. And then they leave. She took a flash drive off of the body. And she's like, okay, I'm going to put an obituary out to see if anybody shows up, because the killer always returns to the scene of the crime. Like that's like her catchphrase. Then we go to this guy named Ricky. Ricky is the first one that shows up to the tea shop since the whole obituary. And he's like pretending to be a journalist, but we get his POV. He's not a journalist. He tells her he works for BuzzFeed. And like Vera's like, he's assuming she's old, she'll know nothing. She's like, oh no, I know like about the online news, or whatever, however she says it. Like, it's so like funny. And literally he looks down, and like it was in Sharpie. So the outline is there, like throughout the story. This body outline of Marshall is like just on the floor. And she gives him tea. And one thing I really like, and I don't know anything about tea, but she serves each of the people in this book their own tea, and it's like very symbolic. So like she serves him this milk tea, and it's like, she's like, oh, like it doesn't look like how it tastes, and he's like, is this because like I'm not who I'm pretending to be? Like, I don't know. It was really interesting. And then we get Sana. She comes next, and she like runs into Ricky because he's leaving. They bump heads. They don't say anything. So then she like comes in, and she's just thinking like, I'm not a killer, but like he deserved to die. And Vera comes out and sees her, and it's like, oh my God, come in, or whatever. And they have like literally the same conversation. Like Vera's like drilling like them like about what they do or whatever. And Sana says that she has a podcast and she does true crime, which I did believe this for a little while. Then I was like, okay, because she was a little more convincing in the beginning. And Sana like is just constantly second guessing herself. And Vera says that the previous guy, who was Ricky, worked for BuzzFeed, and Sana's like wonders if Vera can tell that she's hiding something. And she tells us, the reader, that she had seen Marshall like a few hours before he died. And Vera is like, because they're kind of talking about like what did Marshall look like, and Vera's like, oh, his face looked horrified. And Sana's like he was an asshole basically, but like I didn't want him to die like that. And Vera notices Sana's nails, which are like all jagged and like crusty looking, and she's like, oh my God, like is she putting it together? And then like Vera looks up, and like as they're talking, and sees like there's a white lady outside with like this little child, and they start to come in, but then they turn and they just like run away. And Vera chases after them, but she doesn't catch up with them. And Sana tries to like snoop around the store, but Vera comes back, and Sana just leaves crying. So we go back to Vera, and she's like so satisfied. She got her little like criminal notebook. She's like, suspect 1, suspect 2. She wrote Ricky, Sana, and white lady, all suspects. She's like, Ricky too handsome to be journalist. Like, I'm cracking up. And she's like talking about Sana's nails. Like, was she biting them to hide the evidence? So she calls her son, and he actually answers. And she's like, how do I unlock a flash drive? And he's like, why? And so she tells him like essentially like kind of what happened. And he's like, you took a flash drive from the scene of a crime off a dead body and plugged it into your computer? Are you insane? She's like, no, I didn't plug it into my computer. Like, I didn't take anything. I'm just asking. And meanwhile, it's actively plugged in, and she like yanks it out. Like, oh my God. And so she goes to like visit her customer, Alex, because now he's like stopped coming to the tea shop all of a sudden. And she like is leaving Alex's, and she like about dies because she thinks she sees Marshall, but it's not Marshall. It's his twin Oliver, who is basically like I don't want to call him the loser twin, but that's essentially what they call him. Like Marshall was like the great twin that everyone loved, and Oliver was the one that like got shunned basically. Oliver and Marshall did not get along. They never have. And Oliver thinks that Marshall's death is somehow his fault again. Their mother is dead as well, and he's thinking about how Oliver was blamed, or they felt like it was Oliver's fault that their mom died, because at the time that she died, like she had been making Oliver's favorite dessert, and she was the one that like really liked Oliver, and it seems like the dad is only like cares about Marshall, which are they're like very different names. Like yeah. They are like not sibling names at all. Marshall and Oliver. I can't remember what kind of tea she gives him, but she gives him a tea. She also gave Sana a tea. And Vera asked him, like, what was Marshall like? And he tells her, like, we hated each other, basically, and he was a bad person. And Vera's like, yeah, I kind of figured that. And he can kind of tell that she thinks he's a suspect, but he says, like, maybe, like, he had an allergic reaction to something because he was allergic to a lot of things, including bird dander, of all things. So we go back to Ricky, and Vera calls him at 7:30 in the morning, and he's like, hello? Like, and she's like, you should be awake. What are you doing? She's like, I don't see your article on BuzzFeed. You need to come, like, here and, like, take pictures of me for your article. Oh my gosh. And all he can think about is, like, how the last time he saw Marshall, he yelled at him and told him he was going to kill him, and he had never gotten that angry before. So he stops at a bakery by Vera's to get, like, this, like, breakfast stuff or whatever. And he's like, oh, I went to a French bakery. She's like, it's a Chinese bakery. And, like, they have this, like, weird back and forth. But, like, Vera's being really weird this morning. And then she's like, oh, my other suspect is coming soon. And then Sana walks in. And Sana's like, she's like, this is the cute guy from the other day. And they both wonder, like, why do you keep calling us suspects? Like, we haven't done anything. And she's like, because you're my suspects. And she's like, the criminal always comes back to the scene of the crime. And Vera asks them, like, where were they the night of the crime? And Ricky's like, playing video games. And Sana just, like, snaps. She's like, I don't have to answer your questions. Like, what do you mean? And it's like, she starts writing stuff down in her notebook. And she's like, what are you writing down? Oh my gosh. But they're both still lying. So, like, they're both still lying about, like, their jobs or whatever. And she finds out that Sana is, like, the year of the dragon. She's like, oh, so you wouldn't be compatible with Tilly. But, I can't remember what Ricky is, but she, like, is like, oh, you guys would be compatible. Like, you guys should get together or whatever. And they're like, I'm sorry, we're suspects and you want to matchmake us? Like, what's going on? So we go back to Vera, and Tilly finally texts her back because now he's intrigued because he's like, I haven't heard, because she's like, I'll call you back after that whole flash drive thing, and ain't called him since. And she calls him every day. So now he's like, hello, like, what happened with the flash drive? And then Oliver shows up. So she's like, hey, we're going to see our fourth suspect. So they're like, what? So they all get in the car with Oliver, and Oliver realizes where they're going, which is to Marshall's house. And he's like, I'm sorry, did you call first? So he calls Julia, and, like, Vera had been cooking, like, that morning, and they realized she was bringing all this food to take to Julia and Emma. And he calls, he's like, hey, like, can we stop by? And she's like, yeah, that's fine. So we can switch to Julia. She's, like, a mess. Like, she's still trying to get Marshall's stuff, like, all packed up. She's really stressed out because she's, like, worried about Emma. Like, is something really wrong with Emma? Is that why Marshall was the way he was towards her? And Vera comes in. She, like, immediately makes herself at home. She whips Emma into shape. Emma actually likes Vera. Like, she doesn't speak to anybody, but she immediately will talk to Vera. And Oliver is like, this house is really nice, which, like, so he's never even been there. And Julia thinks, like, he'll be, like, really disgusted by me, but they, like, turn to each other and they're like, oh, like, I'm sorry, like, we both lost something, and they hugged. And essentially, like, they used to be very, very close. And it seems like she met Marshall, like, when she was in high school, so she's known them, like, most of her life. And her and Oliver used to be, like, best friends. And then Emma turns to Oliver and calls him dad. So, awkward.
Yep.
So they have to explain that to her. And we go to Oliver, and they eat dinner. Vera's always cooking, and Oliver's just like, he can't remember the last time he ate dinner, like, with a group of people. It just feels so good to be surrounded by people. Like, the food is so good. But as soon as they're done eating, Vera immediately starts, like, asking, like, who killed Marshall? And Ricky's like, this is disrespectful, which, like, in Chinese culture, like, respect is just one way. It's young to old. There's no, like, Vera doesn't have to, like, worry about respecting them. They're kids to her. But Vera, like, looks really shocked and, like, taken aback by that, because she's like, what do you mean? I can't be disrespectful. And she says again about, like, the murderer coming back to the scene of the crime. And Julia just, like, admits, like, her and Marshall got into a fight, like, the night that he died. And he had been packing his things to leave that night. And Oliver knows her. And he can tell something's off, like, with her story. So Vera is like, I'm really close to figuring this out. She got her little notebook. She's like, everyone seems like guilty, like they're hiding something. Oliver says he was at his dad's the night like that this all happened. Again, Ricky said he was playing video games. This is when Sana like snaps. Sana's like, you're not my mom. And Sana has a really strained relationship with her mom. Her mom is a really famous author. So she's very non-traditional in the sense that like, again, with Chinese culture, it's very common for them to be like, you know, very big on like education and school. And like her mom didn't do that. So her mom is always very proud of the fact that she's like artsy fartsy. But she wants her, and so Sana, like she has high expectations of Sana, but like they're different, but they're still smothering. Like she's not like, you need to get like a degree in law and do that, but she's like, you know, Sana's basically suffering from some kind of block, and her mom's basically like, blocks aren't real, it's all mental, like I can do anything, so you can do anything. And like, so she like throughout the book is trying to figure out like how to put her mom, like tell her mom to chill out or whatever. So they're all sitting there, and then the door rings. At some point, like Sana and Ricky leave, which I missed that part because later they're gone, and I didn't really know when that happened. But the officer shows up. I think it's Officer Gray. I wrote her name occasionally in there, but like the lead detective or officer comes, and she looks so annoyed because, Vera, why are you here? Like, how did you possibly cross paths?
How'd you get here before I did?
How are you sitting in this house eating dinner with all these people? Like, how are you doing this? Like, this is actively my job to be doing, and how are you beating me to it? So she's like basically there to tell Julia how Marshall died, and it's because he did die from allergic reaction, and it was from bird dander. And Vera is so annoyed. She was like, maybe it's some weird acupuncture where they like stick it in the vein or the arm. I don't know, like it's like something cool. And she's like, allergies? Really? So Vera's like, she was like, now I don't have any suspects. Now only the city is my suspect. Like, she's like, what the heck? So Ricky and like Sana, like I said, they left or something at some point, and he's like walking with her, and they realize that they like live close to each other, so they're kind of like close, and he likes her, he recognizes it, and that's when we learn about her mom and how she's really kind of intimidated about her. And he tells her, you know, we should go like snoop around to see like why would the cop come in person to like give that information, because that seems like very important or whatever. And he wonders, like, is Sana like a suspect? Like, did she really possibly do it? And he's like, he just now realizes that this is the girl he bumped heads with like a week ago. Like, he's just now putting that together. And that's when Vera texts them and is like, hey, Marshall died from like a stupid duck. And like that's how I realized that they weren't there anymore. And she tells them like that they should still come around for like tea and stuff. So this is where we learn. We go to Sana. Sana is actually an artist, so she doesn't have a podcast. She's an artist, but she cannot draw because she has a block. And she blames Marshall for it, and she just keeps saying, like, he took something from her, and it caused her block, and she needs to get back what he took from her, and it's at his house. So she calls Julia. And Vera, we go out to Vera. She doesn't want to give up. She thinks that there's more to this. So she goes to the police station, and she's, like, so disappointed. It's so ugly and boring in there. She's like, where's the officer? And she tells the Officer Gray, like, well, Marshall had a bruise. He had a scratch. Like, there's no ducks in my tea house. Like, what's going on or whatever? And the officer's like, I didn't say it was a duck. And they're like, the dander was found in his stomach. Like, so whatever it was something he ate. So we go back to Oliver, and he thinks about how the last time he saw Marshall, it wasn't a good interaction. He has started, like, working on Vera's, like, tea house. And Vera, like, she took a manuscript from his car because apparently he wants to write. He, like, works. He's, like, a maintenance man. Like, he, like, manages, like, apartments, but he wants to be, like, a writer. So she took his manuscript from the car, and she tells him, like, you know, you should publish this. And he gets a call, and it's, like, from one of these, like, he thinks it's from his tenants, but it ends up being Julia. And she says that someone called saying that Marshall had a freaking apartment he had been renting, and they need to come clean it out. And she's just, like, devastated. Like, who was I married to? Like, what is going on? So she asked, like, Oliver, can you do it? Like, I just can't bear to do it. So he goes, and it's filled with art. It's just filled with art. So we go back to Julia. Oliver comes over. He brings all the stuff. He's like, this is so weird. I don't know what's up. And Oliver, like, he's trying to, like, connect with Emma. And he makes her, like, this sensory tent and, like, explains, like, that really worked for him. And Emma is, like, really starting to, like, Julia just needed help. Like, she just does not know what to do with Emma. And that really helps her. So she's, like, grateful for that. And so as they're, like, looking at all this art, Sana shows up. And she sees the art, and she looks pissed. So we switch to Sana's POV, and she's like, we kind of learn what happened between her and Marshall. So she had tracked him down the day that he died. And essentially, when she was in college, she got scammed by him. She was not very good, quote unquote, in college. She was not the top person. Like when they would have art shows, no one was talking to her, while all of her other classmates were selling their pieces. No one was interested. So he approached her and was basically like, what is it called? NFTs? I don't know anything about that.
I don't know.
I've seen that. I don't know what that means. Essentially, like the digitals of her prints, he basically tricked her into signing over the rights to all of her art, thinking that she was going to get paid for it, and then he scammed her. And so that's what happened. So, like, she's pissed thinking that they had this the whole time. She doesn't tell them all of this yet. But Julia's like, we just found this stuff. And so Sana's like, well, where's all the money that, like, he took? Because it wasn't just her. He scammed lots of people. And Julia's like, I didn't know anything about this. And, like, she knows that Marshall was, like, doing some, like, crypto stuff or whatever. But now she's like, I don't even know how I'm going to pay the mortgage. Like, I don't know where money is. And Sana feels bad for Julia because she can see, like, the same way that, like, Marshall scammed her, he's, like, messed up Julia. He isolated Julia. But like Sana's like, I need my stuff back, and she's like, I definitely need my digital rights back, because also he did make money from it because she saw it, like he was selling it online and people were buying it, so like he made money off of it. So then she's like, well, can I like look for my stuff? Julia says, I'm not really comfortable going through his things. I'm sorry. Hold on. He's dead. And he sucked. And he was your husband. And he had a secret apartment. And he clearly scammed people. And what are you talking about? You don't feel comfortable going through his stuff. I take it back. I said I did not like anybody in this book. Julia, a couple times, yes, she was on my list. She was the one character I had a couple issues with. Because I was like, what are we talking about? I'm not comfortable. You're actively going through his stuff right now. Half of it's in the bags. What are we talking about? You just sent Marshall to go through his stuff. You didn't know what was in that apartment. You were sending him over there to go through his stuff. Yeah, that pissed me off so bad. I was like, what do you mean? What do you mean?
Like the Jennifer Lawrence meme. What do you mean?
Yes. What do you mean? I don't feel comfortable going through his stuff. What? Well, it's not his anymore. It's yours. So, yeah. So then they get a call from, Julia gets a call from Vera, and like on the, like from the other side, like they can just see Julia looking all panicked, and it's because Vera tells her that someone broke into the tea shop and like literally just trashed the whole place. So we go to Ricky. He's at the tea shop. Everyone has shown up. Vera doesn't want to call the cops because she's like, they're not going to do anything, and I'm going to do my own investigation, because she's assuming it's it's the killer looking for evidence. So Ricky is like, he's thinking about Marshall, and essentially he has punched Marshall at some point, and he feels like he looks so guilty. And Vera is basically like, I don't want to stay here anymore, but Tilly's like so busy, so Julia's like kind of like reluctantly like, well, I guess you can stay with us, which absolutely not. I don't know you.
He's a stranger.
She is a stranger, and you have a child. You are the last person that should be letting somebody stay in your house.
Right.
Like, I'm so sorry, Vera. Get you a hotel. I don't... Yeah.
No, I'm
suspending reality.
No matter how well-meaning or nice you seem, like no,
you can't stay in my house.
No. Especially only knowing you a couple days, if that. Like, I'm sorry, I know you for a month. You're still not staying, especially not with.
There's people I've known for years that can't stay in my house. That's actively insane. I don't even have like real thought. That's insane. But you know what? It's very on par for her because she's I was okay. So we go to Vera, and you know what's actually even more insane? She ends up staying with her, and then she gives her the master bedroom.
Right.
I don't even want to sleep in somebody else's master bedroom. I think that is so weird. I don't want to sleep in another adult's bed. It's weird. So why would I give some stranger my master bedroom?
Right. I will pull out some sheets, and you can sleep on the couch.
Yeah.
We can go get an
air mattress. Yeah. Whatever you want to do. Pallet. Whatever you want to do out in the living room. I'm going to be behind the lock.
With my child.
Yeah, with my child. Behind the lock. I'm having a hard time. Because I just can't. I can't imagine. Okay. So Vera goes to Julia's. So she starts talking to Julia, and she's like, was it your choice to be a stay-at-home mom? And basically, no. Julia wanted to be a photographer. Marshall was like, she was in school. He taught her into dropping out. It was like, school is expensive. Why do you even need to go to school for this? And then, of course, never got back to actually doing photography. Like, every time it was like, oh, but like, not right now. Those kind of things. And she could tell that she was a photographer because she took really good pictures of Emma. And she just could tell that, Vera has a way of knowing things. So Vera's like, again, moving so fast, well, I'll babysit Emma while you go back to photography.
No.
Where is Julia's family? It's never once mentioned in this entire book if Julia has any family. I'm assuming not, because never once is it mentioned. Why is this random lady babysitting? So, okay. So, yeah. And Vera loves Emma. She's like, gets to be like a grandma finally. Like, that's working out for her. Julia can't believe how like Emma and Vera connected. And, Vera is reading Oliver's manuscript. And so essentially, the manuscript is about two twins that hate each other. It's about his life. Two twins that hate each other. One is perfect and the other one hates him. So there's that. And so Julia figures it out. She starts doing photography again. She gets her like a little job, and she's always like downsized and stuff. So she's like, I just got like this little small job. And Vera's like, don't call it small. Like, this is like not a small thing. And I can't remember what she was saying about this. What was she saying? I wrote down, I thought I was going to remember from what I wrote down, because she was like, she calls Rumpelstiltskin rum-pum-pum-pum. But I can't remember what she was talking about. Oh my gosh. What was she talking about? Ugh. Dang it. I'll remember later. Remember. I don't know. She calls Rumpelstiltskin rum-pum-pum-pum. And I thought that was so funny, but I don't remember what she was talking about. Anyways, Vera is still like snooping around the house for like stuff about Marshall, and she finds his laptop. So, she can't get in it, but then she realizes that the flash drive is the key. So then she gets in the laptop. So we go to Oliver. He ends up meeting Sana and Ricky. So they start cleaning up the shop. And the detective shows up, and she's like, why are you here? And she's pissed because Noah reported that there was a break-in. And Oliver is like, I don't want to talk to you because I'm avoiding the cops. And he can kind of tell that Sana and Ricky are too. So they learn that the neighbor, which is the nosy bakery later, they're basically two old ladies on the block that love each other but bicker. She called the detective and was like, hey, there was a break-in. And of course the detective is mad because they have now cleaned up all the evidence, and they're like, well, it's still in the trash can. Okay. That's how that works. So Vera texts Sana, and she says, you need to meet me right now. I know the truth. So they meet up. Vera learns everything about what's, Sana and the scam and everything. And Vera says, did you kill him with a pigeon? And she's like, no. And Vera tells her, like, I found your information on the laptop. And she tells Vera about, like, her mom and how she so, like, pushes her. She doesn't know what happened to Marshall. And she basically says, like, my mom just told me I just need to get over it, but I can't, basically. And so I tracked him down and I scratched him. So we go to Julia, and Sana tells Julia the truth too. And Julia feels bad because, like, Marshall took advantage of this, like, really young girl, but she realizes, like, he took advantage of her when she was really young too. Like, he's always been super manipulative. And so she starts getting, like, angry. And she tells her, like, you can look through everything and find your stuff. Which, yeah, she should have done that last week. And then they, like, start bonding because Julia gets this job with, like, an influencer. And, like, Sana knows her. And, like, Vera's making dinner. So they're all, like, found family. So Vera believes Sana, so she crosses her off the list. And she really likes Julia, but she's like, she's still a suspect. So I don't know. And she thinks that Marshall really was a terrible person and a husband and a dad. Like, he's, like, a horrible person. And then the detective calls her, and she's just, like, very pissed off. Because, like, what are you doing, Vera? And then we go to Ricky. Vera makes him meet her at the beach at 6:30 in the morning. I'm not meeting you at the beach at 6:30 in the morning, Vera. I'm not doing that. And he's like, why can't you just, like, text me? And she's like, I don't want there to be text proof. And she basically tells him that she found a folder on the computer of him. And so Ricky's story is that his brother, they're from, like, where are they from? No, they're Chinese. I can't remember where they were from, though. But, you know, they were from overseas. And his brother was very, very smart. So smart that he was, like, very advanced in his grades and, like, his age group or whatever, and he would get bullied. And so then they, like, wanted to send him to, like, really nice international schools. Obviously, they're very expensive. So Ricky was, like, trying to do all this work, and he ended up becoming a programmer. And basically, he put, like, a job in for, like, an ad that Marshall had out, and he was supposed to pay him $25,000 to make this scam bot, which Ricky knew it was a scam bot, but he was like, I'm doing this for my brother, like, it's fine. And it was for the art stuff. Like, he knew that this was going to screw people over, but he was like, I needed this for my brother. Well, he made it, and then Marshall paid him $1,000 and said, get lost, too bad, you're a criminal, have a nice day. So then Ricky ended up finding Marshall after Sana had scratched him, and he didn't see all that, and he punched him in the face, and then he just left because he was, like, at home waiting on, like, the police to show up and take him to jail. And so Vera says, he was like, I didn't know if I punched him too hard and I killed him. I'm like, that's so me, like, irrational. Like, that is so irrational. That would never happen, and that is so me. Like, what if I punch you so hard and, like, some piece of, like, bone lodged in your brain? Like, like, you know, like, I don't know. Like, that is my brain every day. Like, just some impossible scenario. Oh, my gosh. And Vera says, your muscle's too weak for you to kill. She is your biggest hater. So she crosses Ricky off the list, and so she's like, well, that leaves Julia or Oliver. So she, like, makes a bunch of food, or she has a bunch of food, and, like, Ricky's like, who's all this food for? And she's like, oh, like, Sana's coming, and now you guys can date because you're not killers. And she, like, wants to go talk to Officer Gray, and, like, she still wants to, like, try to sway her. And she finally feels like a real Chinese mother because she's, like, setting up Sana and Ricky. And she gives Sana the stick, and she tells her, go to the beach and paint. And she says, you don't have to be scared because there's nothing permanent there. And she tells them, like, I know that both of you were lying about, like, your jobs, basically. And so they both, like, admit to each other that. But Ricky is sad because now he knows that his bot scammed Sana. So, like, even though he's got part of his truth exposed, he still has, like, another secret. So go to Oliver, and he's still fixing up the tea house, and he's, like, been so happy reconnecting with Julia, even though, like, it's kind of a little weird. Like, he's kind of, like, romanticizing it just a little bit. Like, what if Emma would have been my child? Like, you know, like, that kind of thing. But Vera asked him, Julia asked him, like, you know, how has your dad been? And Oliver says, like, you know, I haven't talked to him in a while. And she's like, we should go see him. But again, like, he didn't really like Oliver. Marshall was, like, his son. So they go to the dad's house. He won't answer the door. He's like, don't come back here. And they take Emma, and they're like, Oliver's like, I can't believe, like, he's acting like this. And he literally tells them, like, do not come back here. I never want to see you guys. So we go over to Sana, and after that morning, like, she keeps going to the beach, and, like, she finally feels like her block is going away. And then her and Ricky go on a hike one morning. They don't tell Vera, but they do end up, like, talking about Marshall. Ricky looks really guilty, but he still doesn't tell her about the bot thing, and they end up, like, kissing, and they're a thing now. So we go to Julia. She has, like, built up this photography business. She has got a bunch of clients now, and Emma is, like, nursing, like, breastfeeding less and less, and they're fine. Like, it is such a relief when your child stops breastfeeding. Like, it is the most magical experience in the life. Like, I breastfed Carter until he was 1, and, like, that getting your body back is, like, I can't explain it. Like, it's so freeing, and so I can relate to. There's no way I would have done that. As soon as 1 came, I was cutting that off. I don't know how people go past that. I want my body back. So yeah, she's like, you know, she's like, I miss her, but, like, I'm also so happy to, like, have that freedom. And she's actually looking to sell the house because, like, obviously she can't really afford it. But she is like at home and she hears like it sounds like someone's in the house. So she goes into her room, which is Vera's room right now, and like the window's wide open, but she sees Oliver's manuscript on the bed. So she starts reading it and realizes, oh my God, Oliver loves me, and he is like sick and twisted and messed up in the head or something. Or at least that's what she takes from this book. Which again, it's supposed to be fiction, but it is like, you know, two twins and talks about her and all these things. So as she's reading this, like she's so grossed out, but in the book, he decides that he's going to kill his brother. But then the doorbell rings and it's Officer Gray. And she's basically there to say, hey, by the way, did you know that you're going to get a large insurance payout? And she's like, no. But then she remembers like right after they had Emma, she kind of freaked out and they did get insurance and she's going to get $700,000. So of course she's looking guilty. So the officer is basically like, you know, I think someone had something to do with his death. And Julia finally says, like, look, he was leaving that night, everything that happened. And she tries to hide the manuscript, but then the officer sees it and takes it. And I put, Julia, you suck so bad. I was like, that was so unnecessary.
Right.
Like, and what do you mean you're just going to take it? No, this is mine. This has nothing to do with you. If you have a warrant, you cannot just take a book out of my house. Like, no. Yeah, no, you gave that to them. Like, you gave it to them. So Vera, I put, she gets home finding Julia looking stupid because she's sitting there looking stupid. Like, and basically Vera had not read that far in the book yet, so she didn't like know that part or whatever. She was like, oh, I thought it was romantic. And Julia's like sitting here thinking that Oliver killed him. And Vera's like, what would Sherlock Holmes do? And she's like, we're going to have a dinner party. So Oliver is like getting ready for this dinner party and the police show up and they literally have a warrant. They like arrest him essentially. He's questioned about his like character in the manuscript and killing Marshall, which in the book, like he strangles him and he is like let go because they don't have any like hard evidence. And so he's like, I'm going to get a lawyer. He literally like throws up, but he's like, but first I'm going to this dinner party because he assumes that Vera turned him in because she's the one who had the manuscript. So we go to Julia and like they're at the dinner party. Oliver's not there yet, but Ricky and Sana are there. They like are a couple. And then Oliver shows up and he like heads straight towards Vera. He's like going off and Julia's like, it wasn't Vera, it was me. And she's like, what did you do? And he's like, all I did was like, I planted drugs on him. He's like, you know, Marshall always got away with everything. So I planted drugs on him to like make him finally look like the bad guy or whatever, because no one ever believed me. And they're like, well then if you didn't do it, like who killed him and who broke into the shop? And Vera's basically like, I don't know who killed him, but I'm the one that broke into my shop. So Vera basically tore up her own shop because she knew that like the police would like weren't taking it serious and she wanted them to. And then she mentions the flash drive and everybody's like, I'm sorry, what? And then Sana learns about Ricky and she's pissed and she leaves. And then everyone realizes that the flash drive and the laptop are now missing. And Julia no longer trusts Vera and tells her to get out. And she just leaves. Like, she doesn't even put up a fight. So Vera, like, goes home and she's basically, like, realized, like, she did all of this because she is lonely and she's tired of the tea shop, honestly. Like, it's a failure, kind of. No one comes there. And, Tilly calls and she answers and he's like, oh, like I haven't heard from you. And she like, he's basically like, oh, are you finally like closing the tea shop? Like, oh, thank God no one even comes there. Like not knowing that she's already having the worst day and her heart is broken and she literally curls up in a ball and lays in bed for days. So Ricky shows up because he basically had taken furniture from the shop to fix up and his like landlord is like, if you don't get this furniture out of here, I'm going to kick you out. So he takes it to the shop and he's like, the shop is dark, but it's unlocked. He's like, where is she? And the bakery lady's in there like, I don't know, I was looking for her too. And like, where is she? And he goes upstairs and he's like, she just looks so old and sad. And she's been laying in her bed for 3 days, like not moving. So they send her to the hospital and we switch to Sana and they basically admit her. She's like dehydrated. She ended up getting bronchitis and like everyone shows up there and Ricky and Sana make up and then Tilly shows up and he's like, who are you? And they're like, who are you? I'm the owner of this house. I can't ever not do that. Like they basically, I don't know. It's real like brushed over. He basically is like, okay, like we're all cool now. And Sana decides that she's finally gonna paint, and she goes and paints the shop. And so we go back to Julia, and basically Tilly's apparently like a lawyer, and he decides to handle Oliver's case. And Oliver apologizes to Julia, and he says like the book is not like 100% based off my life. I don't have like a fascination with you. He said, I'm really more obsessed, or I was more obsessed with Marshall than anything. Like my whole life, he's gotten everything, and I was more obsessed with him and like, him getting away with anything than you. And like I recognize that like I shouldn't have wrote that, but like I don't want to like be your man and be your baby daddy. Like I don't want to do that. So Vera's in the hospital for like a little while, and they all visit her. And Oliver and Tilly are friends now, and she like ends up like getting out. She was like fake friends with like the roommate or whatever in the hospital. So she comes home to the shop, and they're like showing her everything, and she loves it. And she makes them all tea, and she's like, I gotta make my very special tea. So she goes to get this ingredient, which is very expensive, and it's like from a bird's nest, and it's empty. And she's like, that's my most expensive ingredient. Like, where is it? And she knows when she smashed up the shop that she did not smash that one because it's so expensive. And she only ever used it for one of her very special clients, Alex. And she turns to Oliver and she says, what is your dad's name? And he says, Alex. And she just runs out of the tea shop towards Alex's apartment. And he answers, and he looks terrible. And he says, I wondered when you would figure it out. And so this whole time, he's been telling Vera that his wife was alive because he wanted to have somewhere to go where he could pretend that his wife was not dead. And that is so sad, and I definitely understand that part. Like, he just didn't want to, like, he didn't want her to be gone. So he had this random lady who didn't know him that well, and he pretend that she wasn't gone. So this whole time, Vera's been thinking, like, you know, he's been taking care of his wife. But come to find out, he's also Oliver and Marshall's dad. And he snuck into Julia's and stole the flash drive and the laptop. And he cries, and he basically tells them what happened. So Marshall always made him think that he was the good son and that Oliver was the bad one. And basically, like, the day everything went down, Julia first called him and was like, Marshall's leaving me. So he called Marshall, and they went out to eat, and he basically saw all these things happening to him. He saw Marshall with scratches. Then he saw Ricky come in and punch him in the face. He saw Marshall, like, snapping and, like, be this very crazy, cold person that he's never seen because he always puts, like, a mask on when he deals with his dad. And he's like, you know, what is going on with you? Like, how are you just going to leave your wife and your kid? And he tells, like, Marshall told his dad that Julia was holding him back. He didn't love her. And then Emma is, like, with them when they go. And you can tell, like, he's about to say something, like, mean that Marshall said. So Sana takes Emma. And he tells them that Marshall said about his own child that Emma was a little freak and he would have a better one with someone else. Like,
yeah.
Oh my God. Oh my God. You are disgusting. And like Alex like told Marshall, he was like, no, like you always have to take care of your wife and your child. Like he's like, you know, like you always take care of me. But what it really is that all of these years, Oliver has been sending his dad like groceries every week and taking care of his dad. And he just assumed that it was Marshall doing it. Cause he's like, what about the groceries? And Marshall's like, what fucking groceries? Like, what are you talking about? Whole time it's been Oliver, and you just like, so Alex is not like a great person because like you really just didn't even have a mind of your own. Like, how do you like? I don't get that. You're not getting a pass on me. Like, what made you just decide that your son was terrible?
Right.
And how did you not ever see that Marshall was like? I'm so confused. So then, something happened to where Marshall like walked away or whatever. So Alex went through his phone and saw all of the people that Marshall had been scamming. And so he basically got like, he had some of the tea that Vera had brought him and he gave Marshall the bird tea. And as like he was drinking it, Marshall started having an allergic reaction and he literally was like barely breathing and ran out of Alex's apartment and he broke inside. And they're like, maybe he broke inside to like, as like to point in the direction that like something here caused that to happen. And so Alex apologizes to Oliver for like being terrible and they like go outside, they call the police and he goes with them. And we go to the epilogue. Vera permanently moves into Julia's. And Julia basically ends up paying Ricky for like all of his work on the tea shop so that Ricky can finally pay for his brother to move to San Francisco. And him and Sana are like they're like together now, and they're returning the art of all the other stolen art back to their original owners. And they like go to the tea shop one day, and Vera is like, who are all these people? And they're like, they're for you. So because like now Julia's like kind of like on social media and stuff like that, they are basically able to get customers, and people have now learned about the tea shop. And apparently Oliver ran an article too, and they also saw Sana's art and they're interested. So because of all of her found family, all of these people are now interested in coming to the tea shop, and that is the end. So I know what you rated it, but what did you rate it?
So I ended up bumping it down a bit. It was 5 stars, but I ended up bumping it down to 4.5. I still thoroughly enjoyed it, but there were some things that...
There are issues.
Yeah. But overall, I really enjoyed it a lot.
I gave it a 4.25. I liked Vera. Yeah, like it's just like it's a fun, like cozy read. So, yeah. Okay, we can get into some of the questions about it. So you read this when it came out?
Yeah.
Yeah. So did you know anything about it before you read it?
Nope.
No. Okay.
It popped up as one of the ALCs on Libro, and I said, let me listen.
Yeah, I didn't know anything about it. I felt like I did, but I think it's just because of the whole Vera Wong thing. Vera Wong. But I didn't know anything about it either. Did you feel hooked right away, or did it take you a while to get into this book?
I think I was pretty hooked right away. I do love a meddlesome older person.
Yeah.
So that was just fun to me. It really was her personality that drew me in.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I was hooked pretty quickly.
Yeah, I like Vera too. Like it's funny. Like her dialogue's funny, and like that would irritate me so bad, but it doesn't bother me. Yeah, she is.
Flawed, and I enjoy it.
Yeah, I enjoy it in a book. Like, you know, all the stuff we enjoy in the books that we would not enjoy in real life, I enjoy. Were you surprised by anything in the book?
Yeah. I was surprised that it was Alex.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like that was just, for me, it felt like it just came out of left field. Like, it's not something that I would have ever expected.
Yeah, I feel like being a reader now, like having read a lot more, like now it makes sense because like why did we learn his name? Like why was he important otherwise? So that makes sense, but like I didn't expect it to be him, nor did I expect it to be their dad. Right. Like all of that. I don't know. I almost kind of thought I was like, are Oliver and Julia gonna get together? Mm-hmm. I was like, is this gonna happen? Like I thought. Like, okay. I was like, I mean, I don't know.
I wouldn't do it, but you do you.
Yeah, I was like, yeah. So I don't know. Like I was like, I guess I don't know. So, there's that. Any characters that you didn't like?
Yeah, the dead dude. I forget his name
Marshall.
already.
Yeah, he sucked really bad.
He was awful.
He was awful. He's a terrible person.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have some issues with Julia, like I said.
Yeah. I mean, she wasn't she definitely wouldn't make a list of my favorite. Yeah. But I didn't hate her or anything.
I don't want to victim shame ever. But I do always struggle with I'm so helpless person. Like, what are you doing? And even the stuff with Marshall, I was like, you went a little hard. Yeah. I'm like, you gave that to the police. I'm like, you.
And I feel like there's some common sense things that she just Like, you're letting a stranger
in your home
and watch your children while your child while you're gone, and just that's
yeah. After your husband just died, and like you're uncovering all this stuff about him, and you're just
died
like,
in her shop.
Yeah, like.
How do you know she didn't do it?
Yeah, like she's got a list of suspects. Not one of y'all have any suspects.
Right.
None of you are like, especially you, Julia. Like, you're not even concerned about finding out who the killer
Like, you could be a serial killer, and all of us are now on your list of victims, and we're not even
Maybe this is how she
it.
recruits. This is how she does it. Yeah, no. That was, I don't know. Favorite scene?
My favorite scene would probably have to be when Tilly shows up and he's like, who are you?
No, that is good. I'm trying to think. I don't know if I feel like I have like just a favorite. Probably like I like the beginning scenes, like when she's like meeting the other characters and just like when Vera's just doing her Sherlock thing. Like, those are like funny to me because I'm just like, she's so, and it's like she's talking about like murder and death and she's like, this is so amazing, like that. Just like, you're insane, lady.
I did really like the part where when Vera's cooking and Emma like finally starts to,
yeah, I do like that too. That was healing for her.
I liked their dynamic, Emma and Vera.
Yeah, she does spend a lot of time with her, and like that is good. That somebody, because I don't know, that was what she needed. Like, that's really good. Mm-hmm. Would you reread this? Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I probably would. I would, but I wouldn't. Like, I wouldn't probably seek out to reread this, but like I would. Like, if I was in like another book club and they're like, "Oh, we're gonna read this," I'd be like, "Okay." So yeah. That's that. Okay. All right, but yeah, the next one is called Vera Wong's
Guide to Snooping on a Dead Man,
and that comes out later this year.
It comes out next month.
Oh, pretty soon. So, in this episode, this comes out next week, so we're really close. So yeah, so April. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, so
April 2nd, maybe.
Oh yeah,
if I'm not mistaken.
Less than a month.
Let's see, what's April 2nd? If April 2nd is a Tuesday, then it's April 2nd. No, it's not April 2nd. It's probably like the 8th. Or the 22nd, maybe. I don't know. It's in April.
Well, that is close. So if you're interested, you can always check that one out too. All right. So do we have reviews?
Whoop, wrong one. 5-star. Someone said, live, laugh, love, Vera Wong.
That's only funny because I read that play along book this weekend, and that was like in the book. It was like something about that. She's like, I live, laugh, love you.
Jeez, people are writing whole novels. Okay.
About this book? How? What is there to say?
Okay, this is one sentence. Original, fun, and amusing with a charismatic main character that elevates the mystery and enlivens the experience.
Okay.
Now, our 1-star, which is less than 1%.
Oh, good.
At 737 1-star reviews. Okay. 1 star. I only finished because I had to for book club. Somehow the 60-year-old main character came off more like an 80-year-old, and the 2-year-old character was talking about inflation. No character depth or development, cheesy and unrealistic storylines, cringy forced dialogue between characters. It was just all around bad. The whole book came off as super juvenile and cheesy, and I couldn't stop rolling my eyes.
Okay. Well, meh. Bah humbug. Okay. Well, that is this book. Hang on, that does that. There it is. Okay, so our next book is Onyx Storm. Finally, you guys will get to hear that episode. Gosh, I'm like, I don't even want to listen to it again because I'm like, it probably sounds so bad. Like, we were so excited to record it, and I'm like, it's long. It's like almost 2 hours, and it could have been longer, honestly. I could have talked about it all day. I'm trying to wait. I want to reread it, but I'm just going to wait on the dramatized version. I follow Kaya Freitz, that's how you say her name, on TikTok, and she responds to my comments a lot.
Really?
Not that I'm anybody. Yeah. She was like, I was talking like about her nails. She lives in New York. I was like, you're living my life. But I don't know. She's the voice of Violet, and she's the voice of somebody in Zodiac Academy, and then she's the voice of, I sent it to you and I can't remember who she was the voice of. Maybe I didn't. Maybe it was on, we talk on TikTok and on.
Yeah, we got to keep that streak up.
I know. We talk on TikTok and in our actual messages, so I don't ever know.
It has to be on TikTok.
I know, I'm going there. I'm like, where did I say that to you at?
Because I feel like it was literally just the other day.
Oh, Hypaxia.
Yes.
Yeah. Which I'm like, now I feel like I need to listen to the dramatized Crescent City again, because I'm like, oh, okay. Love Hypaxia. Okay, so yeah. Onyx Storm, so excited. Satan, you are my...
I don't know. How are we going to manage without the without the next one coming out next year?
I know. And she's like working on a special project, and I'm like, what is it? The Codex? She's probably writing the Codex. I'm like, that's going to be interesting. I don't know. She's working on something, but... Yeah. I want that book. I need it now. I'm so like, I saw something about Immortal Dark, like the sequel coming out, and I almost commented. I was like, "Can you tell me how many books are in the series?" Like, I'm like, I've never been that way, but I'm like, I can't do this.
I'm like, I'm so getting into fantasy since we've started the podcast because I never really read it.
Yeah. And
now I'm like, gosh, dang it. The bad thing about fantasy is a lot of them are series.
Yes, and they're like, I know. I did see like, I saved it for us. There's lots of like duologies and things like that are just like 2 books or stuff like that.
Lore of the Wilds is a duology.
Oh, so is the second book out already?
Second book comes out in June.
Okay, so yeah, so there's that. June. There was like a stack, so I was like, we all have to do some of those, like in between.
And Lore of the Wilds is more like a. I mean, there's tension in it, but it's more like a cozy-ish.
Okay.
It's cozier than a lot of fantasies.
Yeah. So I'm like, yeah, because I'm like, I love the long series, but then it's like when you have to wait in between, that just makes it like, that makes it hard. So, okay. Well, that's this episode. So,
that's all, folks.
We will talk to you all next week. And goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.